Last Tuesday, my husband asked for a divorce. No warning, no explanation. Just call my lawyer. So I did. The lawyer couldn't tell me why my loving husband suddenly wanted out. Garrett wouldn't look at me, wouldn't talk to me. After 12 happy years, he just wanted me gone. I signed the papers. I moved out. I thought my marriage was over. Then the mortgage company called. Mrs. Chen, we're calling about the life insurance policy your husband took out on you last month, the one worth $2 million. My blood went cold. Garrett had never mentioned any life insurance policy. That's when I knew. My husband didn't want a divorce because he stopped loving me. He wanted a divorce because someone was planning to kill me. But who wanted me dead, and why? And what did Garrett know that made him think faking our divorce could save my life? I was buttering toast when my world fell apart. It was a Tuesday morning in February, the kind of morning that feels like every other morning you've ever lived. Coffee brewing, news playing softly on the kitchen radio, Garrett sitting at our small breakfast table, still in his pajamas, scrolling through his phone. 12 years of marriage had given us this comfortable routine. I made breakfast. He read the news. We talked about our day ahead. Simple, safe, normal. Except this morning, Garrett wasn't scrolling. His phone sat face down on the table. His coffee was getting cold, and when I looked at him, really looked at him, his hands were shaking. Everything okay? I asked, setting his toast in front of him. Wheat bread, no butter, just the way. He liked it. He didn't touch the toast. He didn't look at me either. Nora, he said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. We need to talk. I slid into the chair across from him, my own breakfast forgotten. In 12 years, Garrett had never said we need to talk in that tone. That careful, practiced tone that people use when they're about to destroy someone's life. I want a divorce. The words hit me like ice water. I actually felt cold, sitting there in our warm kitchen with morning sunlight streaming through the yellow curtains I'd hung last spring. What? It came out as a whisper. I want a divorce, Nora. I've already talked to a lawyer. You should call him too. My brain couldn't process what he was saying. We were supposed to go to dinner with my sister Maya this weekend. We'd talked about repainting our bedroom just last week. 2 days ago, Garrett had brought me flowers from the grocery store. Yellow daisies. My favorites. I don't understand, I said. Garrett reached into his pajama pocket and pulled out a business card. He slid it across the table to me like it was nothing, like it wasn't a bomb that would blow up our entire life. Thomas Brennan, attorney at law, family practice. I stared at the card, trying to make sense of it. Garrett, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? No. He shook his head quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why? My voice was getting higher, more desperate. Why are you doing this? He still wouldn't look at me. I need something different. This isn't working anymore. This. He called our marriage this, like it was a broken appliance he was tired of fixing. What isn't working? I asked. We're happy. We love each other. I'm sorry, Nora. My mind is made up. Made up. Like he'd been thinking about this for weeks or months while I lived in blissful ignorance, while I planned our anniversary dinner for next month, while I looked at vacation pictures online and dreamed about where we'd go this summer. The toast popped up in the toaster. The sound made me jump. How long? I asked. How long have you been planning this? Garrett finally looked at me then. His brown eyes, the ones I'd fallen in love with 13 years ago, looked tired, sad, but determined. It doesn't matter, he said. It matters to me. He stood up, his chair scraping against our kitchen floor. the same floor where we'd danced to no music just last month when he'd gotten a promotion at work. "Just call him," Garrett said, nodding at the business card. "Thomas. He'll explain everything." "Explain what? That my husband wants to throw away 12 years without even telling me? Why?" Garrett winced, but he didn't answer. He walked to our coffee maker and poured his coffee into a travel mug. Getting ready for work like this was just another day. "Where will you go?" I asked, though I didn't really want to know. "I'll stay at Mike's for now. We can figure out the house later." Mike, his coworker who'd been divorced twice. I'd always felt sorry for Mike. Garrett picked up his briefcase and headed for the door that led to our garage, where his car sat next to mine, where we'd hung Christmas lights together 3 months ago, where everything still looked like we were a couple who loved each other. "Garrett, wait." He stopped but didn't turn around. "Is there someone else?" Now he did turn. "No, Nora, there's no one else." "Then please," I said, my voice breaking. "Please just tell me what I did wrong so I can fix it." His face crumpled for just a second. Then the mask was back. "You can't fix this," he said softly. "I'm sorry." The door closed behind him. His car started. He backed out of our driveway and drove away to his job at Morrison Construction, where he'd work all day like his world hadn't just ended over breakfast. I sat alone in our kitchen, holding Thomas Brennan's business card in my shaking hands. The radio was still playing softly, the coffee was still brewing, the toast was getting cold. Everything looked exactly the same as it had 10 minutes ago, but nothing would ever be the same again. I pulled out my phone and stared at the number on the business card. My finger hovered over the screen, but I couldn't make myself dial, because calling that lawyer would make this real. And I wasn't ready for this to be real. Not yet. But 3 days later, I was sitting in Thomas Brennan's office, still holding that business card like a lifeline to my old life. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. I called in sick to work at the insurance office, where I'd been a claims processor for 6 years. I couldn't imagine sitting at my desk, helping other people with their problems, when my own world was crumbling. Garrett came home each night like nothing had happened. He made small talk about his day. He asked if I needed anything from the Yao store. He slept in our guest room, but he was polite about it, like we were roommates instead of husband and wife. It was worse than fighting. At least fighting would have felt real. On Friday morning, I finally dialed Thomas Brennan's number. "Brennan Law Office," a woman's voice answered. "I need to speak with Thomas Brennan," I said. "My husband said I should call." "Of course. May I have your name?" "Nora Chen." There was a pause. "Oh, Mrs. Chen, Mr. Brennan has been expecting your call. Can you come in today at 2 o'clock? Expecting my call. Like I was just another appointment in his day, like my marriage ending was just another case file. Now I sat in his waiting room, looking at magazines I couldn't focus on. Family law. Offices shouldn't have magazines about happy families, I thought. The pictures of smiling couples felt like cruel jokes. "Mrs. Chen?" A man appeared in the doorway. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with wire-rimmed glasses and kind eyes. He wore a navy suit that looked expensive, but not flashy. "I'm Thomas Brennan. Please come in." His office smelled like leather and coffee, law books lined. The walls. His desk was neat, organized, professional. This was a man who helped people navigate the worst days of their lives for a living. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Would you like some water? Coffee?" I shook my head. My stomach had been in knots for 3 days. I couldn't keep anything down. Thomas sat behind his desk and opened a thick folder. I could see Garrett's handwriting on some of the papers inside. "Mrs. Chen?" Thomas said gently. I know this is difficult. I don't understand why I'm here, I said. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. My husband says he wants a divorce, but he won't tell me why. He won't talk to me. He just gave me your card and said you'd explain everything. Thomas looked uncomfortable. He shuffled the papers in the folder, not meeting my eyes. Your husband has been very thorough in his planning, he said carefully. He's asked me to handle both sides of this divorce to keep things simple. Something cold settled in my stomach. Both sides? What does that mean? It means he wants this to be uncontested. No fighting over assets. No drawn-out court battles. He wants everything split 50-50 and finalized as quickly as possible. But I don't want a divorce at all, I said, my voice getting higher. Doesn't that matter? Thomas's expression softened. Mrs. Chen, I understand this is shocking, but in the state of California, only one spouse needs to want a divorce for it to happen. Only one spouse. Garrett could end our marriage all by himself, and there was nothing I could do to stop him. He wants the house sold, Thomas continued, reading from his notes. Your savings account split equally, your retirement funds divided. He's not asking for alimony, and he's not offering any either. I felt dizzy. Our house, the little blue house on Maple Street where we'd planned to grow old together, where we'd painted every room ourselves and planted roses in the front yard. Why is he doing this? I asked, my voice breaking. What did I do wrong? Thomas leaned forward, his elbows on his desk. Mrs. Chen, in my experience, when someone wants a divorce this badly and this quickly, there's usually a reason. Has your husband been under any stress lately? Any problems at work? Health issues? Financial troubles? I shook my head. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. He got a promotion last month. We were talking about taking a vacation this summer. Last week he brought me flowers. Thomas frowned. That is unusual. What do you mean? Most people who want a divorce have been unhappy for months or years. They've tried counseling. They've had fights. There are warning signs. He gestured at the folder. Your husband walked in here 3 weeks ago with a complete plan. He knew exactly how he wanted everything divided. He had all his financial information organized. Most people take months to get that prepared. 3 weeks ago. I tried to remember what was happening 3 weeks ago. We'd gone to dinner with Maya and her boyfriend. Garrett had been his normal self, laughing at Maya's terrible jokes, holding my hand during the movie we saw afterward. Has he mentioned anyone new in his life? Thomas asked. New friends? People from work you haven't met? No. His life is exactly the same as always. Work, home, the gym on weekends. We have dinner with friends sometimes. We're boring, I said, and then started crying because being boring had never felt like a bad thing before. Thomas handed me a box of tissues. I'm sorry. I know this is overwhelming. I wiped my eyes. Is there really nothing I can do? No way to make him talk to me? To try counseling? You can't force someone to stay married, Mrs. Chen, but you don't have to make this easy for him either. You could contest the divorce, demand your day in court, make him prove his case. Would that help? Thomas was quiet for a moment. It might delay things, but ultimately, if he wants out, he'll get out. The question is whether you want to spend the next year fighting about it. I looked around his office, at the law books and certificates on the wall. This man had probably seen hundreds of marriages end. He knew how these stories went. What do you think I should do? I asked. Thomas took off his glasses and cleaned them. Mrs. Chen, I've been practicing family law for 15 years. I've seen every kind of divorce you can imagine. Angry divorces, sad divorces, guilty divorces where someone cheated. Bitter divorces where people fight over everything. He put his glasses back on. But I've never seen a divorce quite like this. 1. What do you mean? Your husband seems scared. Scared. Of what? That's what I can't figure out. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Most people who want a divorce are angry, or sad, or guilty if they're having an affair. Your husband doesn't seem like any of those things. He seems like someone who's trying to solve a problem, and divorce is his solution. But what problem? Thomas shook his head. I don't know, but Mrs. Chen, has your husband ever mentioned being in any kind of trouble? Financial problems? Legal issues? Anyone threatening him? No, I said immediately. Garrett's never even gotten a speeding ticket. He pays our bills early. He's the most honest person I know. Thomas made a note in his file. Would you mind if I asked you some questions about your husband's work, his friends, anyone new in his life recently? I told him everything I could think of. Garrett worked as an accountant for Morrison Construction. Same job for 8 years. His boss, Mr. Morrison, liked him enough to give him that promotion. His co-workers invited him to barbecues and holiday parties. Thomas wrote it all down. When I finished, he closed the folder and looked at me seriously. Mrs. Chen, I may be overstepping here, but something feels very wrong about this whole situation. In my professional opinion, I don't think your husband wants to divorce you because I stopped loving you. My heart jumped. Then why? I think he's trying to protect you from something. Thomas handed me a stack of papers. These are the divorce documents your husband wants you to sign. Take them home. Read them carefully. Think about what you want to do. I took the papers with shaking hands. How long do I have? Legally, there's no rush. But your husband has asked me to expedite this as much as possible. He wants it finalized within 60 days. 60 days to end 12 years of marriage. I stood up to leave, clutching the papers to my chest. Mrs. Chen? Thomas called as I reached the door. Yes? If you decide you want to fight this, I'll help you. And if you decide to go along with it, I'll make sure you're protected. Either way, you don't have to face this alone. I nodded, not trusting my voice to speak. As I walked to my car, Thomas's words echoed in my head. I think he's trying to protect you from something, but protect me from what? And why wouldn't he just tell me? That question haunted me all the way home from Thomas Brennan's office. I drove through our neighborhood in a daze, looking at houses where normal couples lived normal lives, where husbands didn't suddenly ask for divorce and refuse to explain why. Back at home, our house felt like a museum of a life I thought I knew. I walked through each room slowly, looking for signs I had missed. Clues that my husband had been unhappy. Evidence that our marriage was falling apart while I was too blind to see it. In our living room, I stared at the photos on our mantle. Our wedding day, vacations, Christmas, mornings. Garrett's smile looked real in every single picture. Had he been pretending for years? In our bedroom, his side of the closet was still full. His cologne still sat on the dresser. Everything looked normal except for the empty guest room bed where he'd been sleeping for 3 nights. I went to his study, the small room where he paid bills and worked on his computer sometimes. His desk was neat as always, but when I tried to turn on his computer, it asked for a password. That was new. Garrett had never password protected his computer before. I'd used it hundreds of times to check email or look things up online. I tried our anniversary date. Wrong. Password. I tried my birthday, wrong password. I tried his birthday, our address, even our old dog's name. Nothing worked. My hands were shaking as I picked up the phone and called my sister Maya. She answered on the second ring. Nora, how are you feeling? Still have that flu? I'd lied about being sick. I couldn't tell her the truth yet. Not until I understood it myself. "Maya," I said, my voice cracking, "I need to tell you something." "What's wrong? You sound terrible." The words stuck in my throat. Saying them out loud would make them real. "Garrett wants a divorce." Silence. Then, "What? Are you serious?" "He told me Tuesday morning. He already has a lawyer." But you two seemed so happy at dinner last month. What happened? Did you have a fight?" That was exactly what I'd been asking myself. No fight, no explanation. He just said he wants something different. "Is there another woman?" He says no. Well, of course he says no. Men always say no. Maya's voice was getting angry. "Nora, you need to hire your own lawyer. Don't use his lawyer. That's like letting a fox guard the chicken coop." "His lawyer seems nice. He's trying to help me understand." "No," Maya interrupted. "Absolutely not. Promise me you'll get your own lawyer." I promised, even though I didn't want to think about lawyers at all. I wanted to wake up and discover this was all a nightmare. After I hung up with Maya, I continued searching the house. In our kitchen, I went through drawers I hadn't opened in months. Looking for what? I didn't know. Love letters from another woman? Credit card bills I'd never seen? Evidence of a secret life? But everything was exactly where it should be. Our joint checking account statements showed normal spending, grocery stores, gas stations, his gym membership. Nothing unusual. I checked our credit card bills online. Again, nothing strange. No mysterious charges. No expensive gifts that hadn't been for me. No hotel rooms or fancy restaurants I didn't know about. If Garrett was having an affair, he was paying for it with cash. Or maybe Thomas Brennan was right. Maybe this wasn't about another woman at all. That evening, I made Garrett's favorite dinner. Chicken parmesan with the special sauce his mother taught me to make. I set the table with our good dishes. I even lit candles. When he came home from work, he stopped in the doorway of our dining room. "What's this?" he asked. "Dinner." I thought. We could talk. Garrett looked tired, more tired than I'd ever seen him, but he sat down across from me and let me serve him. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The chicken tasted like cardboard in my mouth. "I went to see Thomas Brennan today," I said finally. Garrett's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "What did you think of him?" "He seems nice. He thinks you're scared of something." Garrett put his fork down. He shouldn't have said that. "But it's true, isn't it? You are scared." "Nora, please, don't make this harder than it has to be." "Harder?" I set down my own fork. "You want to throw away 12 years of marriage." "And I'm making it hard?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean? Help me understand, Garrett. Please." He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. The candles flickered between us. Outside, our neighbor Mrs. Patterson was walking her dog like she did every evening at 6 o'clock. Normal life continuing while mine fell apart. "I can't," he said finally. "Can't what?" "I can't help you understand. You just have to trust me that this is for the best." "Trust you?" My voice got louder. "You want me to trust you while you destroy our marriage, for reasons you won't explain?" Yes. That one word hit me like a slap. I stood up so fast my chair fell over. That's not how marriage works, Garrett. We're supposed to be partners. We're supposed to talk to each other. We're supposed to face problems together. "Not this problem," he said quietly. "What problem? What are you so afraid of?" Garrett stood up too. For a moment, his careful mask slipped. I saw real pain in his eyes, fear, but also something else. Something that looked almost like love. "I'm trying to protect you," he said. "From what?" The mask slammed back down. "I can't tell you that." Then don't protect me. Let me decide what I can handle. No, he shook his head. I won't let you get hurt because of me. I'm already hurt. You're hurting me right now. Garrett flinched like I'd hit him. I know, and I'm sorry. But this is the only way. The only way to do what? But he was already walking away. I heard our front door open and close. His car started in the driveway. I stood alone in our dining room, surrounded by the ruins of our romantic dinner. The candles were still burning. The chicken was getting cold. My marriage was ending, and I still didn't know why. I blew out the candles and started clearing the table. As I scraped his barely touched dinner into the garbage, I replayed our conversation. I'm trying to protect you. I won't let you get hurt because of me. Thomas Brennan had been right. Garrett was trying to protect me from something. But what could be so terrible that he'd rather destroy our marriage than tell me about it? I spent the rest of the evening going through our photo albums, looking for clues I'd missed. Our wedding album, vacation pictures, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. In every single photo, Garrett looked happy. We looked happy. When had that changed, and why? At midnight, I was still sitting on our living room floor, surrounded by pictures of our life together. That's when I heard Garrett's car in the driveway. He came in quietly, probably thinking I was asleep. I heard him pause outside the living room, saw his shadow in the doorway. "Nora?" he said softly. "I'm here." He came into the room and saw the photos spread around me. "What are you doing?" "Looking for answers. Looking for the moment when you stopped loving me." Garrett sat down on the couch behind me. "I never stopped loving you." I turned to look at him. "Then why are you leaving me?" "Because sometimes loving someone means letting them go." "That's not an answer, Garrett. That's a greeting card." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "What if I told you that divorcing you is the hardest thing I've ever had to do? What if I told you it's killing me?" "Then I'd ask you why you're doing it. And I'd tell you that some questions don't have answers you want to hear." I gathered up a handful of photos, pictures of us laughing, dancing, celebrating anniversaries. "These people look happy," I said. "Were we just pretending?" "No, we were happy. I was happy." Past tense. "No," he said firmly. Present tense. "I am happy with you, Nora. I love you more now than the day I married you." "Then stay." Garrett closed his eyes. "I can't. Won't. Can't." I stood up, photos scattering around my feet. "Then you're a coward." The words hung in the air between us. Garrett's eyes opened, and for just a second, I saw him flinch. "Maybe I am," he said quietly. He got up and headed for the guest room. At the doorway, he stopped. "Nora?" "What?" "I need you to sign those papers, soon." "Why the rush?" But he was already gone, leaving me alone with our scattered memories and more questions than ever. As I picked up the photos from the floor, one caught my eye. It was from last month, Garrett and me at Maya's birthday dinner. He was looking at me instead of the camera, and his expression was so full of love it took my breath away. 1 month ago, whatever was scaring him, whatever he was protecting me from, it had happened recently. I was going to find out what it was. But first, I needed to understand what I was fighting for, what we had built together, what was worth saving. Saturday morning, I pulled out every photo album we owned, every memory box, every scrapbook I'd made over the years. I spread them across our dining room table like evidence in a case I was trying to solve. Our wedding album came first. June 15th, 13 years ago. I traced my finger over Garrett's face in our wedding photos. The huge smile when I walked down the aisle. The tears in his eyes during our vows. The way he looked at me like I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Had that man been pretending? Had any of it been real? I found the photo from our honeymoon in Hawaii. Garrett building sandcastles on the beach, acting like a little kid. Me laughing so hard I snorted, which made him laugh even harder. We'd been so young, so sure we had forever. Then came the pictures from our first apartment. Tiny, but it was ours. We had no money, but we had each other. I remembered how we'd dance in our tiny kitchen while making dinner. How we'd fall asleep on our secondhand couch watching movies because we couldn't afford cable. We were poor, but we were happy. Our second anniversary. Garrett surprised me with a picnic in the park because we couldn't afford a fancy restaurant. He'd made sandwiches and brought a bottle of cheap wine. In the photo, we're sitting on a blanket, and he's feeding me strawberries. Our third anniversary. We'd saved enough money for a real dinner out. Garrett wore the only suit he owned. I wore a dress from a thrift store. We felt so fancy. Our fourth anniversary. The year we started talking about buying a house. Our fifth anniversary. The year we finally did it. I found the photo of us standing in front of our little blue house on Maple Street holding the keys. Garrett had picked me up and spun me around. On our new front porch. Our sixth anniversary. The garden we planted together. Roses in the front yard. Vegetables in the back. Garrett had never gardened before, but he learned because I loved it. Our seventh anniversary. The trip to Colorado. Hiking in the mountains. Garrett was afraid of heights, but he climbed anyway because I wanted to see the view from the top. Our eighth anniversary. The year I got sick. Really sick. Pneumonia that turned into something worse. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Garrett never left my side. He slept in those uncomfortable hospital chairs. He brought me books and magazines. He held my hand through every scary test and treatment. When I finally came home, he'd turned our bedroom into a recovery room. Fresh flowers every day. My favorite, soup warming on the stove. He took care of me like I was made of glass. That was the year we talked about having children. When you're stronger, Garrett said. When we're ready. Our 9th anniversary. We started trying for a baby, month after month of hope and disappointment. But we had each other. We had time. Our 10th anniversary, the miscarriage, 3 months, pregnant, and then suddenly not. I fell apart completely. Garrett held me while I cried for days. He cried too. We grieved together. We can try again, I said when I was finally ready to talk about it. Only if you want to, Garrett said. I have everything I need right here. But we did try again. And again. Nothing happened. Our 11th anniversary. We decided to stop trying, to focus on each other instead. Maybe we're meant to be just us, Garrett said. Maybe that's enough. It was enough. We traveled more. We took cooking classes together. We learned to tango. Garrett was terrible at dancing, but he did it because I loved it. Our 12th anniversary, last year, the fancy restaurant downtown. Garrett had been planning it for months. He'd even bought me a new dress. Blue, my favorite. Color. In the photo, we're holding hands across the table, looking at each other like we're still newlyweds. 12 years, he'd said that night. Best 12 years of my life. Here's to 12 more, I'd said, raising my wine glass. Here's to forever, he'd replied. Forever. We'd believed in forever just 1 year ago. I closed the photo albums and called our friends, one by one. Maybe they'd seen something I'd missed. Maybe Garrett had said something to one of the husbands. Maybe someone knew what was really going on. First, I called Sarah and Mike Thompson. They'd been our couple friends for years. Double dates every month. Game nights at each other's houses. Nora! Sarah's voice was bright and happy. How are you? We haven't seen you guys in weeks. That's actually why I'm calling, I said, my voice shaking. Sarah, Garrett asked me for a divorce. Silence. Then, What? Are you kidding me? I wish I was. But you two are perfect together. You're our relationship goals. Mike and I always say if Nora and Garrett can't make it work, what hope do the rest of us have? That's what I'd thought too. Did Garrett say anything to Mike recently? I asked. Anything about being unhappy? About wanting something different? No, nothing. Mike would have told me. Nora, this doesn't make any sense. Last time we all went out, Garrett spent the whole evening talking about how lucky he was to have you. When was that? I tried to remember. The four of us at that new Italian restaurant downtown. When was that? Sarah, when did we go to Luigi's? The new place? 3 weeks ago, maybe? Mike's birthday dinner? 3 weeks ago. The same time Garrett went to see Thomas Brennan about the divorce. The same night he was telling our friends how lucky he was to have me. He was planning to leave me. After I hung up with Sarah, I called our other friends, Tom and Lisa, Dave and Jennifer, even Garrett's work friends. The story was the same everywhere. He seemed fine. You two looked. Happy, Ma, I can't believe this. Are you sure there isn't another woman? But I was sure. Whatever was happening with Garrett, it wasn't about another woman. It was about something else. Something that scared him enough to blow up our entire life. Sunday afternoon, I walked next door to visit Mrs. Patterson. She was 75 years old and had lived next to us for 8 years. She knew our routines better than we did. Nora, dear, she said when she opened her door. How lovely to see you. Come in, come in. Mrs. Patterson's house smelled like cookies and lavender. She made tea while I tried to figure out how to ask my questions without explaining why I was asking them. Mrs. Patterson, I said finally, has Garrett seemed different to you lately? Stressed, maybe? She looked surprised. Different? No, dear. He's been his usual helpful self. Just last week he fixed my mailbox when the wind knocked it over. What about visitors? Have you noticed anyone coming to see us? Anyone you didn't recognize? Mrs. Patterson thought for a moment. Well, there were those 2 men in the dark car last Tuesday morning. They sat outside your house for about 20 minutes. I thought they might be lost, but then Garrett came out and talked to them. My blood went cold. 2 men? Yes, professional looking, suits and ties. They got out of their car and had quite a serious conversation with Garrett in your driveway. Tuesday morning, the day Garrett asked for a divorce. What did they look like? Official, I suppose, like government men, or maybe insurance adjusters after an accident. Mrs. Patterson refilled my teacup. Is everything all right, dear? Everything's fine, I lied. Just curious. But everything wasn't fine. 2 strange men had come to my house the morning my husband asked for a divorce. Men who looked official, government men. I thanked Mrs. Patterson and hurried home. In our kitchen, I stood at the window looking out at our driveway, trying to imagine Garrett talking to strangers, trying to understand what they could have said that would make him want to end our marriage that same day. The phone rang. It was Maya. How are you holding up? She asked. I don't know. Maya, do you remember what Garrett was like at your birthday dinner last month? He was great, normal, happy. He kept taking pictures of you when you weren't looking. I teased him about it, and he said he was trying to capture how beautiful you looked when you laughed. He said that. Word for word. Why? Because 3 weeks later he asked for a divorce. Maya was quiet for a moment. Nora, what if something happened to him? What if someone is threatening him? Threatening him how? I don't know. Blackmail. Maybe. What if someone is forcing him to divorce you? It sounded crazy, but then again, everything about the situation was crazy. Who would blackmail Garrett? I asked. He's an accountant. He pays taxes early. He's never even gotten a parking ticket. Maybe it's not about what he did. Maybe it's about what he knows. What he knows? Garrett was an accountant. He worked with numbers, financial records, company, books. What if he'd found something at work, something he wasn't supposed to see? What if someone was making him choose between his marriage and my safety? That night, when Garrett came home from wherever he'd been all day, I was waiting for him in our living room. "We need to talk," I said. He looked tired. More than tired. Exhausted. "Nora, please. We've said everything there is to say." "No, we haven't. Tell me about the men who came to see you Tuesday morning." Garrett went completely still. "What men?" "Mrs. Patterson saw them. 2 men in suits, official looking. They talked to you in our driveway right before you asked me for a divorce." For just a moment, Garrett's careful mask slipped completely. I saw pure fear in his eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice shook. "Don't lie to me, Garrett. Not about this." He looked at me for a long moment. I could see him struggling with something, fighting with himself. "You need to sign those papers, Nora," he said finally. "Soon." "Why? What happens if I don't?" But Garrett was already walking away, leaving me alone with the growing certainty that my husband was in some kind of terrible trouble and that he was trying to save me from it. But I didn't want to be saved. Not if it meant losing him. Monday. Morning, I called in sick to work again. I couldn't sit at my desk processing insurance claims when my own life was falling apart. Instead, I drove to the grocery store and bought everything I needed to make Garrett's favorite meal: beef stew. The recipe his grandmother taught him when he was 12. He'd taught it to me on our 2nd anniversary when we were too broke to go out to dinner. It took all day to make properly, but Garrett said it reminded him of being loved. I needed him to remember what love felt like. I spent the morning chopping vegetables and browning meat. The kitchen filled with the smell of onions and herbs. For a few hours, I could pretend everything was normal. That I was making dinner for my husband, not fighting for my marriage. While the stew simmered, I went upstairs and put on the blue dress Garrett had bought me for our anniversary last year. The one he said made my eyes look like the ocean. I curled my hair the way he liked it. I even wore the perfume he'd given me for Christmas. By the time Garrett came home from work, our dining room looked like a scene from a romantic movie. Candles. Good china, wine. The stew smelled like home and memory and everything we'd built together. Garrett stopped in the doorway, just like he had Friday night. "Nora, what are you doing?" "Fighting for us," I said simply. His face crumpled for just a second. Then the mask was back. "We've talked about this. It won't change anything." "Maybe not, but I'm not giving up without trying." Garrett sat down across from me, but he didn't touch his food. He just stared at the bowl like it might explode. "This isn't fair," he said quietly. "Nothing about this is fair, but we're here. We might as well eat." I took a bite of the stew. It tasted exactly like it should, rich and warm and perfect, like love in a bowl. "Remember the first time you made this for me?" I asked. Garrett's eyes closed. "Our 2nd anniversary. You were so nervous. You kept checking the recipe even though you'd made it 100 times. I wanted it to be perfect. For you, it was perfect. Not because the stew was good, but because you made it for me. Because you wanted to share something that mattered to you." Garrett finally took a bite. I watched his face soften as the familiar flavors hit him. "My grandmother would have liked you," he said. "I wish I could have met her." "She would have. Said you were too good for me." Smart woman. That almost got a smile out of him. Almost. We ate in silence for a while. I waited. Sometimes Garrett needed quiet to find his words. "Nora," he said finally, "if I could change this, I would." Then change it. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together. He shook his head. Not this time. Why not? We've gotten through everything else. My pneumonia, the miscarriage, your dad's death. We've never given up before. This is different. How? Garrett put down his spoon, because this time fixing it could get you hurt. There it was. The truth he'd been dancing around for a week. Hurt how? I asked, keeping my voice calm. I can't tell you that. Then don't protect me. Let me choose. No. His voice was firm, final. I won't risk it. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. That's not your choice to make, Garrett. It's mine. Like hell it is. We're married. We're supposed to make decisions together. Not when those decisions could get you killed. The words hung in the air between us like a bomb that had just exploded. Garrett's face went white as he realized what he'd said. Killed. Someone had threatened to kill me. Who? I whispered. Who threatened me? Garrett stood up so fast his chair fell over. I didn't say that. Yes, you did. Someone threatened to kill me, and that's why you want a divorce. Nora, stop. No! Tell me who did this. Tell me what you know. I can't. Can't or won't. Does it matter? I walked around the table until I was standing right in front of him. Close enough to see the fear in his eyes. Close enough to see how much this was destroying him too. Look at me, I said. He did. I love you, I said. More than my own life. If someone is threatening us, we face it together. That's what marriage means. Tears started running down his face. I can't lose you, Nora. I can't live in a world where you don't exist. Then don't make me live in a world where you don't exist either. For a moment, I thought I'd reached him. His hand started to lift toward my face. Then he stepped back. Sign the papers, he said. Please, if you love me, sign the papers. If you love me, fight for us. We stared at each other across the space between us. Two people who loved each other, pulling in opposite directions. I am fighting for us, Garrett said. This is me fighting. This is you giving up. This is me keeping you alive. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him. I wanted to make him understand that life without him wasn't life at all. Instead, I said, "What did you find at work?" Garrett went very still. What? You're an accountant. You work with financial records. What did you find in Morrison Construction's books that made someone threaten to kill your wife? I don't know what you're talking about, but his voice shook when he said it. Don't lie to me, Garrett. Not anymore. What did you discover? Nothing. Then why are those men watching our house? What men? I pointed toward our front window. The ones who've been driving by every few hours since Tuesday. The gray car. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Garrett rushed to the window and looked out. I saw his shoulders tense. How long have they been out there? He asked. Since yesterday. They drive by, slow down, keep going, over and over. Garrett pulled out his phone and dialed a number. It's me, he said when someone answered. They're back. No, she noticed. I don't know what to do. He hung up and turned to me. The mask was completely gone now. He looked terrified. Pack a bag, he said. Right now. What? Pack a bag. Nora, we're leaving. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, until I can figure this out. I stared at him. So now you want us to stay together? I want you alive. Then tell me what's happening. Garrett looked out the window again. The gray car was back, moving slowly past our house. I found something at work, he said finally. Something I wasn't supposed to see. Financial records that don't add up. Money being moved around in ways that don't make sense. What kind of money? Millions of dollars. Going through Morrison Construction, but not for construction, for something else. What else? I don't know. But the people moving it found out I knew about it. The men who came Tuesday morning. Yes. They said if I told anyone, the police, the FBI, anyone, something would happen to you. So you decided to divorce me instead. I thought if we weren't legally connected anymore, if you were completely separate from me, they'd leave you alone. And now? Garrett looked at me with eyes full of love and terror. Now I think I was wrong. Outside, the gray car had stopped. 2 men in dark suits were getting out. Upstairs, Garrett said urgently. Now. But it was too late. Someone was already knocking on our front door. The knocking turned to pounding. Mr. Chen, a voice called. We need to talk. Garrett grabbed my hand. The back door. We can... The front door exploded inward. 3 men in dark suits stepped into our house like they owned it. The one in front was tall and thin with cold eyes. He looked around our dining room, at the candles, the good china, the romantic dinner. That was supposed to save our marriage. How touching, he said. A last supper. Garrett stepped in front of me. Leave her out of this. I'm afraid that's not possible anymore, Mr. Chen. Your wife has been asking too many questions, talking to too many people. I'll do whatever you want, Garrett said. Just let her go. The man smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Oh, you'll definitely do what we want, but she's coming with us now, to make sure you don't change your mind. 2 of the men moved toward me. Garrett tried to stop them, but the 3rd man hit him with something that made him fall to the floor. Garrett! I screamed. He's fine, the tall man said. For now. Mr. Chen, you have 24 hours to destroy every copy of those financial records you made. Every file, every backup, every note. If you don't, your wife disappears forever. They were dragging me toward the door. I fought them, but they were too strong. Don't hurt her, Garrett called from the floor, blood running down his face. Please, I'll do whatever you want. 24 hours, the man repeated. And Mr. Chen? Don't even think about calling the police. We'll know. The last thing I saw before they shoved me into their car was Garrett struggling to get up, reaching for me, calling my name. Then everything went dark. When I woke up, I was in a small room with no windows. My head pounded. My mouth tasted like metal. The room smelled like old cigarettes and fear. I was sitting in a hard wooden chair. My hands weren't tied, but when I tried to stand up, my legs wouldn't work right. Whatever they'd given me was still in my system. The door opened. The tall man from our house walked in. In the better light, I could see he was maybe 50 years old with gray hair and a scar across his left cheek. Mrs. Chen, good, you're awake. Where am I? My voice came out as a croak. Somewhere your husband will never find you. Unless he does exactly what we tell him to do. I tried to think clearly through the fog in my brain. What do you want? Your husband found some financial records at Morrison Construction, records that could cause problems for my employers. We want those records destroyed. All of them. Who are your employers? The man smiled that cold smile again. People who don't like to be investigated. Let me go. I don't know anything about financial records. Maybe not, but you've been asking questions, talking to lawyers, hiring private investigators. My blood went cold. How did they know about Detective Morrison? We know everything about you, Mrs. Chen, your sister Maya, your job at Pacific Insurance, your friend Sarah Thompson, your neighbor Mrs. Patterson who likes to watch everyone's business. He was threatening all of them, everyone I cared about. Your husband thought divorcing you would keep you safe, the man continued. He thought if you weren't legally connected to him anymore, we'd leave you alone. But then you started digging, trying to figure out why your perfect marriage was suddenly ending. So this is my fault? Your curiosity put you here. Your husband's cooperation will get you out. The man left me alone. I don't know for how long. There was no clock in the room, no way to tell if it was day or night. Just 4 gray walls and that hard wooden chair. I thought about Garrett. Was he okay? The man had hit him hard enough to knock him down. There was blood on his face when they dragged me away. I thought about the financial records. What had Garrett found that was worth kidnapping? Someone over? Worth threatening to kill for? Morrison. Construction was a small company. They built houses and office buildings around town. Mr. Morrison seemed like a nice man. He'd been to our barbecues. His wife made good potato salad. But apparently, his company was moving millions of dollars for people who hired men with guns. The door opened again. This time it was a different man. Younger, with dark hair and nervous eyes. You need to eat. Something, he said, setting down a paper bag. Inside was a sandwich and a bottle of water. I wasn't hungry, but I needed to stay strong. I needed to be ready to run if I got the chance. How long have I been here? I asked. About 6 hours. 6 hours. Garrett had 18 hours left to destroy whatever evidence he'd found. Will you really let me go if he does what you want? The young man looked uncomfortable. That's not up to me. Which wasn't the same as yes. I ate the sandwich and tried to think. Garrett was smart. He'd found the financial records in the first place. Maybe he'd also found a way to copy them, to hide them somewhere safe. Maybe he'd already called the police. But the tall man had said they'd know if Garrett called. Anyone? How? Were they watching him? Listening to his phone calls? Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time moved strangely in that gray room. Finally, the door opened again. The tall man was back. Your husband is being very cooperative, he said. He's destroyed his office computer, shredded all the paperwork, even cleaned out his email accounts. Then let me go. Not quite yet. We're still waiting for one more thing. What? The backup files he made, the copies he hid before we knew he was looking. My heart sank. They knew about backup files. Of course, Garrett would have made copies. He was careful that way, thorough. I don't know where they are, I said. Neither do we. But your husband does, and he's going to tell us. What if he doesn't have any backup files? Oh, he does. We found evidence on his computer before he wiped it. Email attachments sent to an outside account. Files uploaded to cloud storage. Your husband is smarter than he looks. The man's phone buzzed. He looked at it and frowned. Interesting. Your husband just called the FBI. My heart jumped. Garrett was getting help. He told them his wife had been kidnapped by men who wanted him to destroy evidence of financial crimes. Very touching story. So you have to let me go now. The FBI knows. Mrs. Chen, do you really think we'd take you somewhere the FBI could find you? The cold smile again. Your husband has put us in a difficult position. We told him not to call the police. We warned him what would happen. You said you'd let me go if he destroyed the records. Plans change. The man walked to the door, then turned back. Your husband has 2 choices now. He can give us the location of those backup files, or he can live the rest of his life knowing you died because he called the FBI. He won't give them to you, not if you're going to kill me anyway. Then I guess we'll find out how much your husband really loves you. After he left, I sat in that chair and cried. Not just for myself, but for Garrett. For the impossible choice they were giving him. Save me by helping criminals cover up their crimes, or do the right thing and lose me forever. I knew what he'd choose. I knew because I loved him enough to know his heart. Garrett would choose me, even if it meant letting criminals go free, even if it meant destroying evidence that could put dangerous people in prison. He'd choose me, because that's who he was, a man who loved his wife more than anything else in the world, and that's exactly what these men were counting on. I had to find a way out of here. Not just for me, but for Garrett, so he wouldn't have to make that terrible choice. I stood up carefully. The drugs were wearing off. My legs felt stronger. The room was small, but I examined every inch of it. The walls were concrete. The door was solid wood with no window. There was a small air vent near the ceiling, but it was too small to crawl through. No obvious way out. But there had to be something. Some weakness I could exploit. I thought about the young man who'd brought me food. He'd seemed nervous, uncomfortable. Maybe he wasn't as committed to this as the others. The next time someone opened that door, I was going to be ready. I sat back down in the chair and waited, planning, hoping, praying that Garrett would forgive me for what I was about to do, because I wasn't going to wait for him to save me. I was going to save myself. And then I was going to help him put these people in prison where they belonged. The door handle turned. It was time. The door opened, and the young man with nervous eyes stepped in. He was carrying another paper bag and a bottle of water. "More food," he said, not meeting my eyes. "What's your name?" I asked softly. He looked surprised. "Danny." "Danny, how old are you?" 23. He set the food down on the floor near my chair. "Why?" "You seem young for this kind of work." Danny's face flushed red. "It's not what you think. I just drive. I don't hurt people." "Then why am I here?" "Mr. Volkov makes the decisions. I just do what he tells me." Volkov. The tall man with the scar had a name now. "Danny, do you have a girlfriend? A wife?" "A girlfriend. Emma." His voice softened when he said her name. "How would you feel if someone kidnapped Emma to force you to do something?" Danny looked uncomfortable. He glanced toward the door like he was afraid someone might hear us. "That's different," he said, but he didn't sound sure. "Is it?" "I'm someone's wife, Danny. Someone loves me the way you love Emma. Look, lady, I'm sorry about all this, but it'll be over soon. Your husband just needs to cooperate." "And if he doesn't?" Danny didn't answer. He headed for the door. "Danny, wait." He stopped but didn't turn around. "My husband called the FBI. You know what that means?" "It means he made a mistake." "No, it means they're looking for me now. Real FBI agents with real badges and real guns. How do you think Mr. Volkov is going to handle that?" Danny's shoulders tensed. "Do you really think he's going to let witnesses go free? People who can identify him?" Now Danny did turn around. His face was pale. He said no one would get hurt if everyone cooperated. "And you believed him?" "He pays me good money. I got student loans. Emma's in college, too." "Student loans won't matter if you're dead, Danny." "He wouldn't kill me. I work for him. You work for him now. But what happens when this is over? When the FBI starts investigating Morrison Construction? When they start looking for everyone connected to this?" I could see Danny thinking, really thinking for maybe the first time, since this started. "You think he'd..." Danny swallowed hard. "You think he'd hurt me too?" "I think Mr. Volkov is the kind of man who doesn't leave loose ends." Danny stared at me for a long moment. Then he walked back and sat down on the floor across from my chair. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked. "If I help you, he'll kill me for sure." "Not if we're smart about it." "We?" "Danny, Right now, you're a kidnapper. You could go to prison for 20 years. But if you help me escape, if you help the FBI catch Mr. Volkov, you become a witness. A hero. I'm not a hero. You could be. Danny was quiet for a long time. I could hear voices in the distance, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. There are 3 other guys here, Danny said finally, plus Mr. Volkov. They all have guns. Where are we? An old warehouse in the industrial district, about 20 miles outside the city. How many exits? Front door, back door, loading dock. But they're all guarded. I thought fast. Danny, do you have your phone? Yeah, but Mr. Volkov said no calls. I'm not asking you to call anyone. I need you to take a picture. Of what? Of me. Here, in this room, with today's date and time. Danny looked confused. Why? Because if something happens to me, if Mr. Volkov decides to kill me anyway, you'll have proof you were here. Proof you were involved. That picture could save your life if you give it to the FBI. Or it could get me killed. Danny, you're already in danger. The only question is whether you want to be a victim or a survivor. Danny pulled out his phone. His hands were shaking. What exactly are you asking me to do? Help me get a message to my husband. Tell him where I am. Tell him I'm okay. I can't do that. Mr. Volkov would know. Not if you're careful. Not if you're smart. I thought about everything I knew about Garrett. His routines, his habits, places he went, regularly. Danny, do you know where Morrison Construction is? Yeah, downtown. My husband will go there tonight. He'll go back to his office to make sure he destroyed everything. He's thorough that way. So you could be there, waiting. You could give him a message. What message? Tell him Industrial District Warehouse 47. Tell him I'm okay, but there are 5 men with guns. Tell him to bring the FBI, but be careful. Danny shook his head. This is crazy. What's crazy is thinking Mr. Volkov is going to let any of us live after this. You don't know that. Danny, how many other jobs have you done for him? This is my first one. And why do you think he hired someone new? Someone with no experience? Danny's face went white as he understood. Because he doesn't plan on me being around to talk about it. Now you're getting it. Danny stood up and paced around the small room. I could see him wrestling with himself. Fear, fighting against logic. If I do this, he said finally, if I help you, we both have to get out of here alive. Agreed. And you'll tell the FBI I helped? I'll tell them you saved my life. Danny looked at his phone, then at me. Warehouse 47, he said. Industrial District. Warehouse 47. Tell him I love him. I'll try. Danny walked to the door, then stopped. Lady, what's your name? Nora? Nora, if this goes wrong, if they catch me, then we'll both be in the same boat. But at least we'll go down fighting. Danny almost smiled. Emma always says I don't take enough risks. Well, here's your chance. After Danny left, I sat in that chair and prayed. Prayed that he'd find the courage to help me. Prayed that Garrett would get the message. Prayed that this plan would work. Because it was the only plan I had. Hours passed. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was racing. Either Danny was going to help me, or he was going to tell Mr. Volkov what I'd said. If he told Volkov, I was dead. If he helped me, we might both live through this. The door opened again. This time it was Mr. Volkov himself. Mrs. Chen, we need to have a conversation. He sat down across from me, studying my face. Your husband is being stubborn. He gave us the location of some backup files, but we think he's holding back. We think there are more. I don't know anything about backup files. Perhaps, but you might be able to convince him to be more forthcoming. Volkov pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Put him on speaker," he said to whoever answered. Suddenly, I could hear Garrett's voice, shaky but determined. "Nora? Nora, are you there?" "I'm here," I said, tears starting to fall. "I'm okay. Thank God. Nora, I'm going to get you out of there." "Mr. Chen," Volkov interrupted, "your wife's safety depends on your complete cooperation. We found the files you hid in the cloud storage account, but we know there are others." "That's everything," Garrett said. "I swear to you, that's everything." "I don't believe you." "Then you'll have to kill me because I can't give you what I don't have." Volkov's eyes went cold. "Perhaps. But first, I think your wife should pay the price for your stubbornness." He pulled out a gun and pointed it at me. "No!" Garrett screamed through the phone. "Please, don't hurt her." "Then tell me where the other files are." "There are no other files." Volkov cocked the gun. "Wait!" Garrett shouted. "Wait! There's one more, on a flash drive. Hidden in our house." "Where in your house?" "I'll have to show you. I'll have to get it myself." Volkov smiled. "How convenient. Mr. Chen, you and 2 of my associates are going to take a little drive to your house. If you try anything, if you signal anyone, if you even look suspicious, your wife dies. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Good. We'll be there in 1 hour." Volkov hung up and looked at me. "Your husband is about to make the biggest mistake of his life," he said. "I hope you said goodbye." After he left, I sat alone with the terrible knowledge that Garrett was walking into a trap. But maybe, if Danny had found the courage to help, the FBI would be waiting too. Maybe this nightmare was almost over, or maybe it was just beginning. 20 minutes after Volkov left, Danny came back. His face was pale and his hands were shaking worse than before. "I did it," he whispered. "I found your husband at Morrison Construction." My heart jumped. "Did you tell him?" "Warehouse 47, Industrial District, 5 men with guns. Bring the FBI, but be careful." Danny swallowed hard, and I told him you love him. "What did he say?" "He said to tell you he's coming, and that he loves you too." Danny's voice cracked. "Then he asked me to help keep you safe until he gets here." "You talked to him? I thought you were just going." "To leave a message." "I was. But when I got there, there were already FBI agents in the parking lot." "Your husband was talking to them." "FBI agents. Garrett had really done it. He'd called for help." "How many agents?" "Maybe 10, plus local police. They have the whole building surrounded." "Did they see you?" "No. I waited until your husband was alone for a minute. When he went to his car to get something." Danny sat down on the floor. "Nora, there's something else." "What?" "Your husband told the FBI about the backup files, the real ones." I frowned. "What do you mean, the real ones?" "The flash drive he told Mr. Volkov about? The one hidden in your house? It's fake." "Fake?" "Your husband already gave all the real evidence to the FBI. Hours ago, before they took you." I stared at Danny, trying to understand. "So the flash drive is a trap. The FBI is going to be waiting at your house when Mr. Volkov shows up." Garrett had outsmarted them. Even while they held me hostage, even while they threatened to kill me, he'd been thinking ahead. Planning. "Danny, we need to get out of here. If Volkov realizes it's a trap, he'll kill everyone here and run," Danny finished. "Yeah, I figured that out too." "Can you get me out?" Danny looked toward the door. "Maybe, but we'd have to move fast and quiet." "What about the other guards?" "2 of them went with Mr. Volkov to your house. That leaves 2 here, plus the guy watching the front entrance. 3 guards. Still too many." "Is there another way out?" Besides the doors you mentioned? Danny thought for a moment. There's a loading dock in the back, but Marcus is watching it. What about windows? Fire exits? This place is old. Most of the windows are boarded up, but Danny's eyes lit up. There's a skylight in the main warehouse. It's broken, been broken for years. How high up? Maybe 20 feet, but there are crates we could stack up, boxes and stuff. 20 feet. It might as well be 200, but it was better than sitting here waiting to die. Danny, if we do this, there's no going back. Once we start running, we're committed. I know. He pulled out his phone and showed me the picture he'd taken of me earlier. I already sent this to my girlfriend Emma. Told her if something happens to me, she should give it to the police. Smart kid. What did you tell her? That I got mixed up with some bad people, that I was trying to do the right thing. Danny's voice got stronger. She told me she was proud of me. She should be. Danny stood up and walked to the door. He listened for a moment, then came back. Okay, here's what we're going to do. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to start an argument with Tony. He's the guy guarding the main floor. What kind of argument? I'll think of something. While we're yelling, you slip out of this room and head for the back of the warehouse. I'll meet you there. What about the third guard? Rick is upstairs in the office watching the security cameras, but half of them don't work anyway. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was the only chance we had. Danny, what if this doesn't work? Then at least we tried. He smiled, and for the first time, he looked like the college kid he really was instead of a criminal. Emma always says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Smart girlfriend. Yeah, I'm gonna marry her. If I live through this. Danny walked to the door again. Ready? Ready. He opened the door and stepped out. I heard his footsteps moving away. Then silence. I counted to 60. Then I heard Danny's voice, loud and angry. What do you mean I can't have a smoke break? I've been here for 12 hours. Boss said no one leaves their post, another voice replied. That must be Tony. The boss isn't here. He's off playing games with that woman's husband. Shut up and get back to work. Work? What work? I'm standing around doing nothing. Their voices were getting louder, moving away from my room. This was my chance. I opened the door carefully and looked out. Empty hallway, concrete floor, dim lighting from bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling. I could hear Danny and Tony still arguing somewhere to my left. I turned right and started, walking as quietly as I could. The hallway opened into a huge warehouse space. Exactly what Danny had described. High ceiling with a broken skylight letting in gray light from outside. Stacks of crates and boxes everywhere. And in the far corner, a pile of wooden pallets that might be tall enough to reach the skylight. I was halfway across the warehouse floor when I heard footsteps behind me. Hey, what are you doing out here? I turned around. A man I hadn't seen before was walking toward me. He had a gun in his hand. I asked you a question, he said. This must be Rick from the security office. I was looking for the bathroom, I said, trying to sound scared and helpless instead of determined and desperate. Bathroom's the other way. Come on. He grabbed my arm and started pulling me back toward the hallway. Back toward my prison. That's when Danny appeared behind him. Rick, what's going on? Found your prisoner wandering around out here. Danny looked at me, and I saw something new in his eyes. Resolve. Rick, Danny said, I'm really sorry about this. Sorry about what? Danny hit Rick over the head with something heavy. Rick dropped like a rock. Is he dead? I whispered. Danny knelt down and checked Rick's pulse. No, just unconscious. But we need to move. Now. We ran toward the pile of pallets. Danny started stacking them higher while I watched the doors. How much time do we have? I asked. I don't know. Could be minutes, could be hours. Danny climbed up the pallets and tested the broken skylight. I think we can fit through here. But it's going to be tight. Ladies first, I said. No, I'll go first. If there are cops outside, they might shoot you by mistake. Danny climbed through the skylight and dropped down onto the roof. Then he reached back down for me. Come on, Nora, trust me. I climbed up the pallets, my heart pounding. The skylight was small and sharp with broken glass, but freedom was on the other side. Danny helped pull me through. We were on the roof of the warehouse, 20 feet above the ground. In the distance, I could see city lights. Now what? I asked. Now we run like hell and hope the good guys get here before the bad guys figure out we're gone. Danny's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went white. What is it? Text message from Mr. Volkov. He showed me the screen. The house was a trap. Kill the woman. We're coming back. How long ago did he send that? 2 minutes. Below us, we could hear shouting. They'd found Rick. They'd discovered I was missing. Danny, we need to get off this roof, now. There's a fire escape on the other side. If we can reach it. The warehouse door burst open below us. Tony came running out, looking around wildly. There! He shouted, pointing up at us. On the roof! Danny grabbed my hand. Run! We ran across the roof toward the fire escape. Behind us, I could hear more shouting, the sound of car doors slamming. We reached the fire escape just as gunshots started echoing through the night air. Danny went down the ladder first. I followed, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold on. We hit the ground running. Danny's car was parked in an alley behind the warehouse. Get in! He shouted. I dove into the passenger seat just as more gunshots rang out. Danny started the car and floored the accelerator. We roared out of the alley and onto the main road. In the rearview mirror, I could see men with guns running after us. Where are we going? I asked. Police station, FBI field office, somewhere safe. Danny's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and smiled. It's your husband. He handed me the phone. Garrett? Nora. Thank God. Are you okay? I'm okay. Danny helped me escape. We're driving to the police station. No, don't go there. Come to our house. The FBI has it surrounded. You'll be safe here. What about Volkov? In custody, along with his men. It's over, Nora. It's finally over. I started crying, relief and joy and exhaustion all hitting me at once. I'm coming home, I said. I'll be waiting, Garrett replied. I'll always be waiting. As Danny drove through the night toward home, toward safety, toward my husband, I realized something important. We'd made it. Both of us. Together. The nightmare was finally ending. But as Danny drove through the dark streets toward our house, my hands wouldn't stop, shaking. Even though Garrett said it was over, even though Volkov was in custody, I couldn't quite believe it was real. 20 minutes later, we turned onto Maple Street. Our little blue house was lit up like Christmas morning. Police cars, FBI vans, agents in bulletproof vests. And standing on our front porch, looking more beautiful than I'd ever seen him, was my husband. Garrett ran toward Danny's car before we'd even stopped moving. I jumped out and threw myself into his arms. I thought I'd lost you, he whispered against my hair. I thought I'd lost you forever. Never, I said, holding him so tight I probably hurt him. You'll never lose me. We stood there in our driveway, holding each other and crying while FBI agents worked around us like we were the calm center of a storm. Mr. and Mrs. Chen? A woman's voice interrupted us. I'm Agent Sarah Collins, FBI. We needed to debrief you both. Agent Collins was younger than I'd expected, with short brown hair and serious eyes. She led us into our own living room, which was now full of federal Agents and evidence boxes. First, Agent Collins said, I want you to know that Viktor Volkov and his 3 associates are in custody. They're not going anywhere for a very long time. What about the people he worked for? I asked. That's where your husband's evidence comes in. Mr. Chen, the financial records you discovered have helped us uncover a money laundering operation worth over $50 million. $50 million. No wonder they'd been willing to kidnap and kill to keep it secret. The Morrison Construction Company was just one piece of a much larger puzzle, Agent Collins continued. Fake construction contracts, shell companies, offshore accounts. Your husband's discovery was the key that unlocked everything. Garrett took my hand. I never meant for you to get hurt, Nora. When I first found those records, I thought I could just report it quietly. I never imagined they'd threaten you. Tell me everything, I said, from the beginning. Garrett looked at Agent Collins, who nodded. It started about a month ago, Garrett said. I was doing the quarterly audit for Morrison Construction. Just routine stuff, but some of the numbers didn't add up. What kind of numbers? Payments for materials that were never delivered. Contracts for buildings that were never built. Money going out to companies that didn't seem to exist. So you investigated. I dug deeper. I found invoices for concrete from a company called Westside Suppliers. But when I called them, no one had ever heard of Morrison Construction. Agent Collins opened a file folder. Westside Suppliers was a shell company operated by the Kozlov crime family. They've been using construction companies to launder drug money for years. Drug money? My voice came out as a squeak. Viktor Volkov worked for them, Agent Collins explained. His job was to keep the operation running smoothly, to eliminate any threats, like my husband finding their fake invoices. I made copies of everything, Garrett continued. I knew I'd need proof, but I also knew I was in over my head. Why didn't you call the FBI right away? I was going to, but before I could, those men showed up at our house. Tuesday morning, I said, remembering Mrs. Patterson's story. Tuesday morning. They told me they knew what I'd found. They said if I reported it to anyone, something would happen to you. Agent Collins made a note. They specifically threatened. Your wife? They had photos of her, Garrett said, his voice shaking. Pictures of Nora going to work, shopping for groceries, visiting her sister. They knew her routine better than I did. I felt sick. Those men had been watching me for weeks, maybe months. So I panicked, Garrett continued. I thought if we got divorced, if Nora was legally separated from me, they'd leave her alone. That's why you asked for the divorce so suddenly. I thought it was the only way to protect you. I figured I could report them after you were safe. But it didn't work, Agent Collins said. No, they kept watching both of us. And when Nora started asking questions, when she hired that private investigator, Detective Morrison, I said, they realized the divorce wasn't real, that we were still trying to protect each other. Agent Collins looked at me. Mrs. Chen, your investigation actually helped us. The private investigator you hired contacted us when he couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. Detective Morrison called the FBI? He's a former federal agent himself. When he saw the pattern, your husband's sudden behavior change, the sea, mysterious visitors, the rushed divorce, he recognized the signs of witness intimidation. So you were already watching us. We'd been investigating Morrison Construction for months. Your husband's evidence was exactly what we needed to make. Arrests. I looked at Garrett. So when you called them yesterday, they were already prepared. We'd been in contact for hours by then. The fake flash drive was Agent Collins' idea. We needed Volkov to reveal the location of the warehouse where they were holding you, Agent Collins explained. The house was the perfect trap. What happened there? Volkov and 2 associates showed up expecting to find your husband and a flash drive full of evidence. Instead, they found 20 federal agents. Agent Collins smiled. It was a very short conversation. I thought about Danny, who was sitting quietly in the corner, probably wondering if he was in trouble. Agent Collins, Danny saved my life. He helped me escape when Volkov realized it was a trap. Agent Collins looked at Danny. Mr. Reeves, you're looking at some serious charges: kidnapping, conspiracy, accessory to extortion. Danny's face went white. However, Agent Collins continued, your cooperation tonight, your assistance in Mrs. Chen's rescue, and your willingness to testify against Volkov will be taken into consideration. What does that mean? Danny asked. It means you'll probably serve some time, but not much. And it means you get to go home to Emma. Danny started crying. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Thank Mrs. Chen. She's the one who convinced you to do the right thing. Agent Collins closed her file. We'll need formal statements from all of you tomorrow. But for tonight, you can sleep in your own bed. As the FBI agents packed up their equipment and left our house, Garrett and I found ourselves alone for the first time in what felt like forever. We sat on our couch, the same couch where we'd had so many conversations about our fake divorce, and just held each other. I'm sorry, Garrett said. I'm so sorry I put you through this. You were trying to protect me. I should have trusted you with the truth from the beginning. Maybe, but we survived it. We're both here. What happens now? I thought about the divorce papers Thomas Brennan had given me, still sitting on our kitchen counter, unsigned. Now we tear up those divorce papers. Now we remember that marriage isn't just about the good times. It's about protecting each other even when it costs everything. Even when it almost costs everything, Garrett corrected. Even then. We sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of our neighborhood returning to normal. Police cars driving away, neighbors going back inside their houses, life resuming. Garrett? Yeah? Next time you discover a $50 million money laundering operation, can you just call the FBI immediately? He laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in weeks. Deal, but let's hope there isn't a next time. Agreed. I curled up against my husband's side, safe in our own house, in our own life, finally telling each other the truth about everything. Tomorrow we'd give our statements to the FBI. Tomorrow we'd figure out what came next. But tonight, we were just Nora and Garrett Chen, husband and wife, partners, survivors. Tonight, that was enough. But as we sat together on our couch, holding each other close, I realized there was still one more thing I needed to understand. One final piece of this nightmare that didn't quite make sense. Garrett, I said softly, when did you first know they were watching me? He was quiet for a moment. 3 weeks ago, the night of Maya's birthday dinner. 3 weeks ago, the same night our friend said he looked so happy. The same night he'd been taking pictures of me when I wasn't looking. What happened? I got home from work that day and found something on our front porch. An envelope with no return address. What was in it? Garrett's arms tightened around me. Photos of you, dozens of them. You leaving for work. You at the grocery store. You having lunch with Sarah. You visiting Mrs. Patterson. I felt cold all over again. They'd been watching me for weeks. Months, probably, and there was a note. It said, "Your wife is very pretty. It would be a shame if something happened to her." That's when you decided to ask for the divorce. That's when I knew I had to get you away from me, whatever the cost. I thought about that dinner with Maya, how Garrett had seemed so normal, so happy, how he'd laughed at her jokes and held my hand during the movie. You were saying goodbye, I realized. That whole evening, you were saying goodbye to our life together. I was memorizing every moment. The way you laughed, the way you looked in that blue sweater. I thought it might be the last time I'd see you happy. Now I understood why he'd been taking so many pictures. He was trying to capture what he thought he was about to lose forever. Garrett, why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you trust me? Because I was terrified. These weren't just criminals, Nora. They were professionals. They knew everything about us, our routines, our friends, our families. If I'd told you the truth, you would have wanted to help. You would have wanted to fight. I would have. And that would have gotten you killed. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, our neighborhood was quiet, normal, safe. There's something else, Garrett said. Something I haven't told you yet. My heart started beating faster. What? The morning I asked for the divorce, after you left for Thomas Brennan's office, they called me. Who called you? Volkov. He said they knew you'd gone to see the lawyer. He said if you didn't sign the divorce papers within 48 hours, they'd take you. That's why you kept pushing me to sign them. I thought if we could just get through the divorce quickly, quietly, they'd leave us alone. I thought I could solve the money laundering problem after you were safe. But they never intended to leave us alone. No, I realize that now. They were always going to kill both of us once they got what they wanted. I thought about Danny's words in the warehouse, about Volkov not liking to leave loose ends. So the divorce was never going to save me. It might have bought us time. But you're right, it was never going to be enough. I pulled back to look at his face. Garrett, when you called the FBI yesterday, you knew they might hurt me. I knew. But I also knew that if I didn't call them, we were both dead anyway. At least this way, we had a chance. That must have been the hardest decision of your life. It was, choosing between definitely losing you and maybe saving both. Of us. Garrett's voice broke. I almost didn't make the call. What changed your mind? I thought about what you would want me to do, and I knew you'd want me to fight, even if it meant risking everything. He was right. I would have wanted him to fight. I'm proud of you, I said, for calling them, for trusting them, for being brave enough to risk everything for the truth. I wasn't brave, I was terrified. Sometimes being brave means being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. Garrett smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in weeks. When did you get so wise? Somewhere between getting kidnapped and escaping through a warehouse skylight. About that, Garrett said, his expression growing serious. Nora, what you did tonight, convincing Danny to help you, getting yourself out of there, that was incredible. I learned from the best. You taught me that sometimes you have to make impossible choices to protect the people you love. I never wanted you to have to make those choices. I know, but I'm glad I could. I'm glad I was strong enough. We held each other closer, listening to the sounds of our house settling around us. Our house, where we'd planned to grow old together, where we'd almost lost each other, where we'd found our way back. Garrett? What happens to Morrison Construction? Mr. Morrison seemed like a good man. Agent Collins said he had no idea what was happening. The Kozlov people were using his company without his knowledge. Fake contracts, forged signatures, the whole thing. So he's not in trouble? No. Actually, Agent Collins said there might be a reward. The government recovers money from these operations, and whistleblowers sometimes get a percentage. I sat up. A reward? Could be substantial. Enough to... Garrett paused. Enough to take that vacation we've been talking about. Hawaii? Anywhere you want. I thought about the photos in our wedding album. Young and poor, but happy. We weren't young anymore, And maybe we wouldn't be poor much longer, but we were still happy. I want to go back to that little bed and breakfast in Napa Valley, where we went for our 5th anniversary. The place with the terrible wine? The wine wasn't terrible. You just have no taste, says the woman who puts ketchup on steak. That was one time, and I was pregnant. You weren't pregnant. You thought you might be pregnant. We were laughing now, falling back into the comfortable rhythm of a couple who'd been together for 12 years, who'd survived the worst crisis of their marriage and come out stronger on the other side. Nora? Yeah? I love you. More now than the day I married you. More than I thought it was possible to love another person. I love you too, even when you're trying to divorce me to save my life. Especially then? Especially then. I got up and walked to our kitchen counter where Thomas Brennan's divorce papers still sat. Unsigned, unwanted, unnecessary. I picked them up and brought them back to the living room. Do the honors? I asked, handing them to Garrett. He took the papers and tore them in half. Then in half again. Then again, until they were nothing. But confetti scattered across our coffee table. There, he said. No more divorce. No more secrets either. No more secrets, he agreed. We swept up the pieces of our fake divorce and threw them in the trash where they belonged. Then we went upstairs to our bedroom, the room where Garrett had slept alone in the guest room for a week. The room where we'd planned to grow old together. As we got ready for bed, doing normal things like brushing our teeth and changing into pajamas, I realized something important. We weren't the same people we'd been a week ago. We'd been tested in ways we never imagined. We'd been forced to choose between love and safety, between trust and protection, between being together and staying alive, and we'd chosen each other. Every time, in every way that mattered, we'd chosen each other. That night, as I fell asleep in my husband's arms for the first time in a week, I knew that, whatever came next, the FBI interviews, the trial, the media attention, the reward money, we'd face it together, because that's what marriage really meant. Not just promising to love each other in good times and bad, but proving it when everything was on the line. We'd kept our promises, all of them, and tomorrow we'd start building the rest of our life together, the real one this time. No secrets, no lies, no men in dark suits threatening the people we loved. Just us, Nora and Garrett Chen, husband and wife, partners in everything. Forever, like we'd always planned. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse watching Viktor Volkov get sentenced to 25 years in prison. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. The defendant's crimes represent a callous disregard. For human life and the rule of law, Garrett squeezed my hand as Volkov was led away in handcuffs. The man who had threatened our lives, who had torn our marriage apart and put it back together again, was finally getting what he deserved. It's really over, Garrett whispered. It's really over, I agreed. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. FBI interviews that lasted for days, grand jury, testimony, depositions, phone calls from reporters, court appearances. Through it all, Garrett and I had faced everything together, just like we'd promised. We'd also dealt with the aftermath in our personal lives, explaining to Maya why we'd lied about the divorce, apologizing to our friends for the deception, thanking Mrs. Patterson for being the nosy neighbor who helped save our lives. Thomas Brennan had been incredibly understanding about the whole situation. In 30 years of family law, he'd said, I've never had a case where the clients were pretending to get divorced to save each other's lives. It's actually kind of romantic. We'd kept in touch with Danny, too. He'd served 6 months in minimum security prison and was now back in college, engaged to Emma. He called us every few weeks to check in, and we'd become unlikely friends. None. Of this would have happened if you hadn't convinced me to do the right thing, he'd told me during one of our phone calls. You convinced yourself, I'd replied. I just helped you see what you already knew. Agent Collins found us in the courthouse hallway after the sentencing. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, she said, shaking our hands. Justice was served today. What happens to the money? I asked. The government recovered $43 million from the Kozlov operation. As promised, you're entitled to 10% as a whistleblower reward. $4.3 million. More money than Garrett and I had ever dreamed of having. Agent Collins, Garrett said, we've been talking. About this, we want to donate half of it. To who? Victims of violent crime, people who've been through what we went through. Agent Collins smiled. That's very generous of you. We figure we're lucky to be alive, I said. The money is just a bonus. After Agent Collins left, Garrett and I walked out of the courthouse hand in hand. 6 months ago, walking down these same steps, I'd been a kidnapping victim giving testimony. Today, I was just a woman who'd watched justice being served. So, Garrett said as we got in our car, what should we do with the rest of our lives? Well, we have a trip to Napa Valley planned next month. And after that? I thought about it. We'd been through hell and back together. We'd learned things about each other and ourselves that we never could have imagined. We'd proven that our marriage could survive anything. After that, we live happily ever after. That's it? That's your big plan? That's my big plan. Happily ever after is harder than it sounds. Garrett laughed. You're right about that. We drove home to our little blue house on Maple Street, the house where our nightmare had started and ended, where we'd said terrible things to each other and wonderful things to each other, where we'd learned that love isn't just about the good times. That evening, we had dinner with Maya and her boyfriend. She was still mad at us for lying to her about the divorce. I cried for hours, she said over dessert. I thought my sister's perfect marriage was falling apart. It wasn't perfect, I said. It just looked perfect from the outside. And now? I looked at Garrett across the table. Now it's real. What's the difference? Perfect marriages exist in fairy tales. Real marriages survive kidnapping and money laundering and federal investigations. Maya laughed. When you put it that way, I guess you're right. After Maya left, Garrett and I cleaned up the dishes together. Another normal evening in our normal life. The kind of evening I'd thought we'd lost forever when those men knocked down our door. Nora, Garrett said as we loaded the dishwasher, do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd told you the truth from the beginning? Sometimes. Do you? Yeah, I think about it a lot. And what do you think? I think we might have handled it better together from the start, but I also think we might not have survived at all. I considered this. Maybe the way it happened was the way it needed to happen. You think so? I think we both learned things. We needed to learn. You learned to trust me with hard truths. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. You escaped from armed kidnappers through a skylight. I'd say you're definitely stronger than you thought. And you chose to do the right thing even when it meant risking my life. That took courage I didn't know you had. I didn't know I had it either. We finished cleaning the kitchen and went upstairs to our bedroom. The same bedroom where Garrett had packed his things to sleep in the guest room, where we'd had our last fight before everything fell apart, where we'd held each other and cried after it was all over. As we got ready for bed, I thought about how much had changed in 6 months. On the surface, everything looked the same. Same house, same jobs, same routines. But underneath, everything was different. We'd been tested in ways we never imagined. We'd been forced to choose between love and safety, between trust and protection, between being together and staying alive, and we'd chosen love. Every time, in every way that mattered, we'd chosen love. Garrett? Yeah? Do you remember what you said to me the night they took me? Right before dinner? I said a lot of things that night. You said I never stopped loving you. I meant it. I know. But I need you to know something too. What? Even when I thought you'd stopped loving me, even when I thought our marriage was over, even when I was sitting in Thomas Brennan's office signing divorce papers, I never stopped believing in us. Garrett was quiet for a moment. Why? Because real love doesn't just disappear overnight. Real love fights back. Real love finds a way. Even when it looks impossible. Especially when it looks impossible. We turned off the lights and lay down in our bed. Our bed, where we'd slept together for 8 years. Where we'd dreamed together and planned together and built a life together. Nora? I love you. More now than ever. I love you too. Forever, like we always planned. Forever, he agreed. As I drifted off to sleep in my husband's arms, I thought about the journey we'd taken. From a happy marriage to a fake divorce, to a kidnapping, to a reunion, to a trial, to justice. It hadn't been the life we'd planned. But it was the life we'd chosen, together, and tomorrow we'd wake up and choose it again, and the day after that, and the day after that. Because that's what marriage really is. Not just one promise made on one perfect day, but the same promise renewed every day, through good times and bad, through sickness and health, through kidnappers and money launderers and federal investigations, through everything. Forever. Like we'd always planned. The courtroom was behind us. The nightmare was over. Viktor Volkov was in prison where he belonged, and we were home, safe in each other's arms, finally free to live the rest of our story. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. Always together. That was our promise. That was our choice. That was our happy ending. But 6 months later, sitting in that federal courthouse, I realized our story wasn't really over. It was just beginning again. The real beginning this time. Watching Viktor Volkov get sentenced to 25 years felt like closing a book on the worst chapter of our lives. The judge's words rang through the courtroom. Your crimes represent a complete disregard for human life and family bonds. Garrett squeezed my hand. Finally. Finally, I whispered back. The Kozlov crime family had been dismantled. 12 people were going to prison. Morrison. Construction was clean now, with new oversight and procedures. The financial records that started this whole nightmare had helped the FBI shut down money laundering operations in 3 states. Agent Collins met us outside the courtroom after Volkov was taken away. How does it feel? She asked. Like we can finally breathe again, I said. The government has officially approved your whistleblower reward. $4.3 million. More money than we'd ever dreamed of. But it felt strange to be rewarded for nearly losing each other. Agent Collins, Garrett said, we've made a decision about the money. Oh? We want to donate half to victim assistance programs. People who've been through what we went through shouldn't have to face it alone. That's incredibly generous. We got each other through this, I said. Not everyone is that lucky. Over the past 6 months, we'd met other victims of the Kozlov operation. People who'd lost family members. Business owners who'd been threatened. Accountants like Garrett who'd found the wrong information at the wrong time. We wanted to help them rebuild their lives the way we'd rebuilt ours. There's something else, Agent Collins said. The FBI would like to offer you both positions as civilian consultants. Your experience with financial crimes and victim advocacy could help other families. Garrett. And I looked at each other. We'd talked about this possibility. We'll think about it, Garrett said. Take your time. The offer will stand. As we walked out of the courthouse, I thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, I was a terrified woman who thought her husband had stopped loving her. Today, I was someone who'd survived a kidnapping and helped bring down a criminal organization. "So," Garrett said as we got in our car, "what now?" "Now we go home. We have dinner. We watch a movie. We do normal things that normal couples do." "And tomorrow?" "Tomorrow we keep building our life together, the real one this time." We drove through downtown, past Morrison Construction where this all started. Mr. Morrison had kept Garrett on even after all the publicity. He said anyone brave enough to expose criminals was someone he wanted on his team. When we got home to our blue house on Maple Street, Mrs. Patterson was outside watering her flowers. "How did it go, dears?" she called out. "Justice was served," I called back. "Good. That man deserved everything he got. You two are heroes." Heroes. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a woman who'd fought for her marriage and won. That evening, Maya came over for dinner. She was still working through her feelings about us lying to her for months. "I understand why you did it," she said over dessert, "but it hurt to think you didn't trust me." "We couldn't trust anyone," Garrett said. "These people had been watching. Our whole lives. If we'd told you, they might have threatened you too." "I know. Logically, I know that. But emotionally, you felt left out of the most important thing that ever happened to us," I finished. "Exactly." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Maya, if I could go back and do it differently, I would. But I can't. All I can do is promise that from now on, no more secrets, no more lies, even if it's dangerous." Even if it's dangerous? We learned that keeping secrets almost destroyed us. The truth might be scary, but lies are worse. Maya smiled. "Okay, but next time you get kidnapped by criminals, I want to know immediately." "Deal. Though let's hope there isn't a next time." After Maya left, Garrett and I sat on our couch, the same couch where we'd had so many difficult conversations over the past months, where we'd held each other and cried, where we'd planned how to survive. "Nora, do you ever regret it? Any of it?" "What do you mean?" "If you could go back and make it so none of this happened, would you?" I thought about it. "You mean go back and make it so you never found those financial records?" "Yeah. Go back to our normal, quiet life where the biggest problem was deciding what to have for dinner." "Would you?" "Sometimes I think about it. We were happy before." "We were. But Garrett, we're happy now too. And now we know our happiness can survive anything. Even kidnapping and money laundering. Even that. But we lost something too," Garrett said quietly. "We lost our innocence, our sense that the world is safe." He was right. We'd never again be the couple who thought bad things only happened to other people. We'd never again take our peaceful life for granted. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing," I said. "Maybe knowing how precious this is makes it more valuable." "You think so?" "I know so. I love you more now than I did 6 months ago. Not because what we went through was good, but because it showed me who you really are when everything is on the line." "And who am I?" "You're a man who would sacrifice everything to keep me safe. You're a man who would rather break his own heart than let someone break mine. Even when it meant lying to you. Especially when it meant lying to me. Because I know how much you hate lying. I know how much it cost you to do that." Garrett was quiet for a moment. "I never want to lie to you again." "Then don't. Promise me. Whatever happens from now on, we face it together. No more trying to protect each other by pushing each other away." "I promise. But Nora, you have to promise me something too." What? Promise me you'll never again escape from armed criminals through a skylight without backup. I laughed. I promise I'll try to avoid situations where that's necessary. That's not the same thing. Fine. I promise that if I'm ever kidnapped again, I'll wait for professional help instead of staging my own rescue. Thank you. We went upstairs to our bedroom, the same room where we'd said goodbye to each other thinking it might be forever, where we'd reunited after the worst night of our lives, where we'd slowly learned to trust each other again. As we got ready for bed, I caught sight of us in the mirror. We looked older somehow. Not just 6 months older, but years older. Like we'd lived through experiences that aged us. But we also looked stronger, more connected. Like we'd been through fire and come out refined instead of burned. Garrett? Yeah? I want to accept Agent Collins' offer. To work with the FBI? To help other families, other victims. We know what it's like to have your life turned upside down by criminals. We know what it's like to almost lose each other. It could be dangerous. Living is dangerous. Loving someone is dangerous. But it's worth it. Garrett smiled. Okay, we'll call her tomorrow. Together? Together. As we turned off the lights and settled into bed, I thought about the future. Not the future we'd planned 6 months ago, but the future we were choosing now. We'd help other families survive. What we'd survived. We'd use our experience to make something good come from something terrible. We'd turn our nightmare into other people's hope. Nora? Do you think we'll ever have a boring, normal marriage? I hope not. Boring is overrated. Even after everything we've been through? Especially after everything we've been through. We know now that we can survive anything together. Why would we want to waste that on boring? Garrett laughed. When you put it that way. Besides, helping FBI victims won't be boring. True, though hopefully it won't involve any more skylights, or warehouses, or men with guns, or fake divorces. Definitely no more fake divorces. I curled up against my husband's side, safe and warm and home. Tomorrow we'd call Agent Collins and start our new adventure. We'd help other couples learn what we'd learned. That love is stronger than fear. That truth is stronger than lies. And that together you can survive anything. Viktor Volkov was in prison. The Kozlov crime family was finished. The nightmare was over. But our story was just beginning. The real story this time. No more pretending, no more secrets. No more lies. Just two people who'd chosen each other in the worst of circumstances and would keep choosing each other for the rest of their lives. That was our promise. That was our commitment. That was our real happy ending. That's the end of Nora and Garrett's incredible story. Love really can survive anything when two people refuse to give up on each other. I'm curious, where are you listening from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love hearing from listeners all around the world. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more stories of hope, love, and second chances. Together, we can spread a little more kindness in this world. And speaking of amazing stories, there's another incredible tale waiting for you right on your screen. Click on the video appearing now. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, remember, real love always finds a way.